Yes, I think expression of emotions in animals, again, is another area we're only really beginning to look at. The problems are partly procedural. We've tended to use quite invasive methods for looking at brain function in the past. I think with functional nuclear magnetic resonance imaging, we're beginning to be able to see a little bit more, but of course that frequently means having to immobilize an animal to do it, and of course that is imposing a constraint which is probably going to make the animal unhappy. And so we've already skewed the study. I think we can, though, look at happiness as an emergent property of a quiet and peaceful mind. And I think Buddhism is quite clear that happiness is something that's intrinsic within us, and that the seed of happiness is present in us. Doesn't have to be dependent on external conditions. And I think that that's probably true in animals too, but happiness is an emergent property of a quiet mind that is contented. And when I look at my sheep grazing in the field, I can see that those animals are quite content with the situation that they're in. So I would be surprised if they are not showing signs of happiness. As I say, physiologically, I think we still have to prove that. From a behavioural point of view, I think I can say that. And I can also see that, when you turn cattle out in the field after the winter for the first time, they go off with a buck and a bounce, and they're clearly enjoying being out in their natural environment and out on grass and enjoying the sunshine. So I think, we can be pretty confident that those animals are experiencing something equivalent to what we refer to as happiness. The behavioural signs of distress are very frequently similar in animals to those that are shown in humans. And the Buddhist idea that mind and body are not separate, I think, is also very applicable to animals. So when we see, for instance, sheep that are in pain, they will show very similar facial expressions to humans. They tend to screw their eyes up, they tend to clench their jaw. They also rotate their ears downwards and backwards, which is, of course, is something that we don't do. But it's very interesting. And actually Darwin pointed this out 120 years ago. He wrote a book about the expression of the emotions of man and animals, in which he pointed out many of these factors. And in fact, as scientists, we've largely ignored that work for the last 100 years. And we're now beginning to get to grips with it. But the more we look, the more we find that animals' facial expressions are frequently a very good reflection of what's happening in their minds. And work's now been done in rodents, in sheep, horses, cats, and an increasing number of studies going on in other species as well, and producing similar results. This is work that's been done with pain, because it's quite easy to see that an animal is in pain. It's carrying a limb, or it's had an operation or something like that. Whereas other emotions are perhaps a little bit more difficult to be definitive that an animal is feeling happy or unwell or whatever. But those are things that I think will come.